We usually imagine spiritual awakening in a silent cave, but the Gita shatters that image by starting in a war zone. Why would history's most famous manual on inner peace begin with a man having a nervous breakdown on a battlefield? It starts here because every human action, from birth to death, is driven by a single relentless objective: the pursuit of happiness. This violent setting illustrates the inevitable collision between our internal desire for peace and a chaotic, uncontrollable external world. We see this treadmill early on. An infant cries for milk, and a child demands a toy, only to discard it a few days later. The cycle continues into adulthood. We chase a specific job title, a marriage, or a net worth, yet the satisfaction we gain always has an expiration date. We hit a wall because physical reality is inherently impermanent. Every object we grasp is already in a state of decay, subject to disease, aging, and eventual death. Trying to secure lasting joy through external action is like trying to untangle a massive knot of ribbons by pulling on random loops. The more we try to fix circumstances, the more we create new complications, tightening the web we are trying to escape. When we realize that temporary objects can never yield permanent satisfaction, grief is the inevitable, logical result of that discovery. This brings us to Arjuna. On the battlefield, he faces the ultimate external nightmare, a fight to the death against his own family and teachers. The pressure causes a total mental collapse. He drops his bow, paralyzed by a sorrow so intense he can no longer function. The text formally calls this Vishada Yoga, the yoga of despair. It's a paradox, pairing the concept of spiritual union with absolute dejection. But here, grief is a diagnostic tool. It is the moment the ego admits its standard methods for achieving happiness are no longer working. Arjuna's despair serves as a necessary breaking point. It marks the moment he admits that even winning a kingdom will not solve his internal agony. To understand our own lives through this story, we have to look at the deeper meaning of the battlefield, Kurukshetra. Conceptually, Kurukshetra translates to the field of action, or even the field of the body. This maps the ancient war to our internal psychology. The chariot and the battlefield represent the human body navigating the world. The opposing armies and flying arrows represent our daily internal conflicts, our ego-driven desires, our fears, and our modern anxieties. The Gita provides a structured logic for navigating this psychological chaos, encoded within these verses for centuries. The war of the Gita plays out in the present tense, reflecting the internal struggle of every living human. Modern sciences excel at optimizing our environment, but changing external conditions rarely silences the internal noise of anxiety or regret. The Upanishads, the texts of inner inquiry, begin exactly where these external fixes reach their limit. Arjuna is forced into this inward turn. Because the external world offers no solution, he finally looks toward the only permanent reality, the self. Without the shock of intense grief, we might never stop searching the world for a peace that only exists within. This was a deliberate choice by the author, Vyasa. He placed the manual for peace in a worst-case scenario to prove a point. We often think enlightenment requires geographical isolation, like a silent mountain peak or a remote cave. But if Arjuna found clarity while surrounded by arrows, then that same clarity is accessible in our offices, our kitchens, and our daily struggles. Grief isn't a dead end. It is the necessary starting line for the discovery of unshakable peace.